Diana Ross understood something most artists in the 1960s and 1970s didn't understand, that owning your masters meant owning your legacy. While other Motown artists signed contracts that gave Berry Gordy complete control over their recordings forever, Diana negotiated deals that eventually gave her ownership of her work. While male artists were celebrated for business savvy, Diana was doing the same thing quietly and strategically, becoming one of the first black women in music to own her master recordings. Diana's business intelligence was as groundbreaking as her artistry. Diana understood that talent alone wouldn't protect her future. Ownership would. And Diana built a fortune and legacy by making smart business decisions when most artists were just grateful to have recording contracts. Some of y'all remember when artists didn't own anything they created. Remember when singers made hit records and the record companies owned everything forever. Remember understanding that Berry Gordy owned Motown and everything recorded there. Remember thinking that was just how the music business worked. But Diana Ross understood early that ownership mattered, understood that the recordings she made would have value for decades, understood that controlling your work meant controlling your destiny. Diana's business thinking was decades ahead of most artists. The standard Motown contract in the 1960s was heavily weighted toward the label. Artists got small royalty percentages. The label owned the master recordings forever. Artists had no control over how their music was used. Berry Gordy built Motown's wealth partly on those contracts. Owning the masters meant Motown could license, reissue, and profit from recordings indefinitely, while artists got minimal ongoing compensation. Most Motown artists signed those contracts because getting a recording deal with Motown was an incredible opportunity. Few artists had leverage to negotiate better terms. Diana Ross had leverage other Motown artists didn't have. Diana was Motown's biggest star. Diana Supremes were the label's most successful group commercially. Berry Gordy was personally invested in Diana's success in ways that gave Diana negotiating power. Diana understood her value and used that understanding strategically. When Diana went solo in 1970, Diana negotiated terms that other Motown artists couldn't get. Diana's contracts with Motown for her solo work included provisions about ownership and control that were revolutionary for a black female artist. The specifics of Diana's master ownership deals evolved over decades of negotiations. Some masters Diana gained ownership of immediately through her contracts. Other masters Diana purchased back from Motown or successor companies over years. Diana's lawyers and business managers structured deals that gave Diana increasing control over her catalog. By the time Diana left Motown in 1981 to sign with RCA, Diana had secured ownership of significant portions of her solo work. Diana continued strategic negotiations throughout her career to acquire masters she hadn't initially owned. Some of y'all understand what it means to think long-term about your work, to negotiate not just for immediate payment, but for future control. To understand that what you create today will have value tomorrow, to prioritize ownership over quick money. Diana Ross demonstrated that business intelligence throughout her career. Diana wasn't just performing, Diana was building an empire through strategic contract negotiations that most artists never even considered. The significance of Diana owning her masters extended beyond personal wealth. Diana proved that black women could be sophisticated business operators in an industry designed to exploit artists. Diana showed that you could be glamorous and beautiful and talented while also being shrewd about contracts and ownership. Diana's success encouraged other artists to fight for better deals. Diana's example showed that artists didn't have to accept standard industry contracts that gave away all control. Diana's business education likely started watching Berry Gordy operate Motown. Berry built an empire by owning everything: masters, publishing, artist management. Berry understood ownership created lasting wealth. Diana watched Berry become wealthy not just from hit records, but from controlling those records forever. Diana learned from Berry's model, but applied it to protect herself. rather than building a label empire. Diana understood that artists needed to own their work the way Berry owned Motown's catalog. The transition from Motown to RCA in 1981 was strategic business thinking. Diana's contract with RCA gave her more creative control and better financial terms than Motown had offered. Diana negotiated significant advances in royalty rates. Diana used competing interests from multiple labels to get the best possible deal. The RCA contract reflected Diana's understanding of her value. Diana was a proven star with decades of hits and could demand terms that protected her interests. Diana's approach to business was professional and strategic, but also low-key. Diana didn't brag about her deals publicly, didn't give interviews detailing her contract negotiations, didn't position herself as a business mogul. Diana just made smart decisions quietly and built wealth steadily. That discretion was partly about Diana's style, elegant, classy, not flashy about money. But it also reflected that female artists who talked too much about business were often criticized as greedy or difficult. The wealth Diana built through ownership allowed Diana to control her career in ways other artists couldn't. Diana could choose projects based on artistic merit rather than just financial necessity. Diana could turn down roles or recordings that didn't serve her vision. Diana could invest in her family and children's futures. Diana's business success meant Diana worked because she wanted to, not because she had to. That freedom came from decades of smart contract negotiations and master ownership. Some of y'all respect Diana for being as smart about business as she was talented as a performer. Respect that Diana understood money and ownership mattered. Respect that Diana negotiated aggressively when necessary. Respect that Diana built lasting wealth through intelligence and strategy. That respect honors the complete Diana, not just the glamorous performer, but the savvy business operator who understood the industry and played it brilliantly. Diana's example influenced how subsequent generations of artists approached contracts. Diana showed that ownership was possible. Diana proved that artists could negotiate for masters. Diana demonstrated that thinking long-term about your catalog's value was smart business. Artists who came after Diana, particularly Black women, could point to Diana's success and demand similar terms. Diana's pioneering business practices opened doors just like her artistic achievements did. The contrast between Diana's business success and struggles of other Motown artists is striking. Artists who'd been equally or more talented than Diana, but who hadn't owned their masters, ended up with far less wealth and control. Florence Ballard died poor despite the Supremes' massive success because Florence never owned anything. Mary Wells left Motown early, but never owned her masters and struggled financially. Martha Reeves and many others made hit after hit, but never built significant wealth because they didn't own their work. Diana's different financial outcome reflected business intelligence, not just greater talent. Diana's master ownership also gave Diana control over her legacy. Diana could decide how her recordings were used, could approve or deny licensing for commercials, films, television, could control compilation albums and reissues, could protect the artistic integrity of her work. That control mattered for an artist who cared deeply about image and presentation. Diana's masters weren't just financial assets, they were Diana's artistic legacy that she could shape and protect. The estimated value of Diana's master recordings runs into tens of millions of dollars. The exact figures are private, but industry estimates suggest Diana's catalog ownership represents massive wealth. Hit songs generate income for decades through radio play, streaming, licensing, samples, covers. Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Touch Me in the Morning, Endless Love. These songs continue earning significant revenue. Diana owns or controls much of that revenue stream through her master ownership deals. Diana's approach to wealth was also strategic about building generational security. Diana's children, Rhonda, Tracy, Chudney, Ross, Evan, benefit from Diana's business decisions. The catalog Diana owns will continue generating income long after Diana. Diana created inherited wealth through master ownership. Diana's business intelligence protected not just her own financial future, but her children's and potentially grandchildren's futures. The challenges Diana faced negotiating as a black woman in a male-dominated industry shouldn't be minimized. Record executives expected black artists to be grateful for any deal, expected women to defer to male executives and lawyers, expected Diana to just perform and let others handle business. Diana had to overcome racism and sexism while negotiating. Diana had to be tougher and smarter than male artists received credit for being. Diana's success came despite systematic barriers designed to keep black women from controlling anything. Some of y'all built businesses or negotiated deals in industries that didn't want you there. Understood you had to be twice as smart to get half the credit. Fought for terms others got automatically. Built wealth through strategy and persistence despite systematic obstacles. Diana's business success honors all of you who've done the same. Diana proved that intelligence and determination could overcome industry practices designed to exploit you. Diana's ownership of masters also meant Diana could be generous with licensing when it served purposes Diana believed in. Diana could allow her music to be used for causes Diana supported, could deny usage for things Diana opposed, could give favorable terms to black filmmakers or artists Diana wanted to support. Ownership gave Diana power to use her catalog strategically rather than having companies make those decisions. The business education Diana received throughout her career came from multiple sources. Berry taught Diana about ownership's value. Diana's lawyers and business managers provided sophisticated financial advice. Diana's own intelligence and attention to detail ensured Diana understood her contracts rather than just signing what others recommended. Diana asked questions. Diana negotiated. Diana made informed decisions about her career and money. That active engagement in business protected Diana in ways passive trust in others wouldn't have. Diana Ross's business legacy is as important as her artistic legacy. Diana proved black women could be sophisticated business operators in entertainment. Diana demonstrated that artists should own their masters. Diana showed that long-term thinking about ownership created lasting wealth. Diana's example influenced contract negotiations industry-wide. Diana's success helped normalize artists demanding ownership and control. Diana's business intelligence broke barriers just like Diana's talent did. Some of y'all celebrate Diana's business achievements as much as her performances. Understand that Diana's wealth came from intelligence, not just talent. Appreciate that Diana thought strategically about ownership when others didn't. Respect that Diana negotiated aggressively to protect her interests. Value that Diana built generational wealth through smart business decisions. That celebration of Diana's business success acknowledges the complete picture of who Diana Ross is: extraordinary artist and brilliant business operator. The lessons from Diana's approach to master ownership are relevant for any artist or creative professional. Own your work whenever possible. Negotiate for the best possible terms. Think long-term about your catalog's value. Don't accept standard industry contracts without questioning them. Understand that ownership creates lasting wealth where one-time payments don't. Hire good lawyers and business managers. Be involved in your business decisions rather than just trusting others. Diana demonstrated all of these principles throughout her career. Diana's master ownership also provided security and peace of mind that many artists never achieved. Diana didn't have to worry about financial survival in old age, didn't have to perform constantly to pay bills, didn't depend on residuals from masters she didn't own. Diana's smart business decisions early in her career paid off for decades. Diana could focus on projects that mattered rather than just chasing money. That financial security was the reward for decades of intelligent negotiation. The recognition Diana deserves for business brilliance is often overshadowed by focus on her artistry and personal life. People discuss Diana's voice, Diana's look, Diana's relationships. But Diana's business intelligence deserves equal attention. Diana's negotiating skills were extraordinary. Diana's understanding of contracts and ownership was sophisticated. Diana's strategic thinking about her career and catalog was brilliant. Diana Ross wasn't just a great performer. Diana was a pioneering black female business leader in entertainment. Diana Ross became one of the first black women to own her masters through intelligence, strategy, negotiation, and understanding that ownership mattered. Diana built massive wealth and lasting legacy by controlling her work. Diana proved that artists, particularly black women, could be sophisticated business operators. Diana influenced how subsequent generations approached contracts and ownership. Diana created generational wealth for her family. Diana demonstrated that being brilliant about business didn't diminish artistic achievement, it protected it. That's Diana Ross's business legacy. Do you remember when artists didn't own their recordings? Did you know Diana Ross was one of the first black women to own her masters through strategic negotiations? Drop a comment sharing your thoughts about Diana's business brilliance, or tell us about times when ownership made the difference. Hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another trip down memory lane.